Well, I moved around. I was born in a little town of Truman, Minnesota, southern part of the state down by Fairmont. And then my folks moved away to a farm. We went up to up southwest of Elbow Lake, Minnesota, near Fergus Falls.
Where were you when you were? Were you drafted or did you join?
I was drafted, and I lived on the farm for 7 years, and then I got through grade school. Depression was about done, and my folks wanted to move back to where I was born in a little town of Truman. So we moved back there while I went through high school. And then I got through high school, and my folks wanted to do something different in their life. They'd never had a profession or anything, so we drove up to Peposky, Minnesota. We'd heard there was a good place up here, and we knew a lot of people that had lived in southern Minnesota. So we moved up here. That was in 1940. And I ended up buying 80 acres of farm up there north of Peposky. And we moved up here.
What year were you drafted?
1943.
And you left here and you went to where for boot camp?
I spent one winter here in Peposky, and then I went back to southern Minnesota, and where I was known and I knew people, and I thought I'd stand a better chance of getting a job. So I went back down to southern Minnesota and roomed and boarded with my sister and her husband, and I looked for a job, which was not an easy thing to find. And I finally took a job on the farm. That only lasted about a month, and then I got a guy come and ask me about, I'd gone up and down the street to every store there was and asked for a job. I didn't care what it was. And so I got into a municipal light, water, and power plant. And they had diesel engines there that operated generators for the electricity for the town. And I was there for a couple of years, and some guy said, let's go to California. And anything was better than what I had. We had loaded up an old pickup truck, 6 of us, and we took off for California, and got there in that fall. That was a 42, and I worked in the shipyards, Kaiser Shipyards at Richmond, California, till I got a call from the draft board, and so I took my first physical out there. I passed it, so I gave the shipyard notice that I was resigning and I was coming back to Minnesota because I was going into service. And so I did that, and a friend of mine came back with me, and we came back to Minnesota, and I took my last physical at Fort Snelling, and I was inducted.
Where'd you go for basic training?
Shepherd Field, Texas, Wichita Falls, and they had a big base there, and so we shipped out. There was 3 or 4 of us that went to Wichita Falls. They had a room full of recruits, of course, and they took so many. This says, you guys go to Texas, and you guys are in the Navy, you go there, and so on. We had not really any choice, but they asked me if I'd be all right, and I said, well, it sounded good to me, so.
So you ended up in what, the Air Corps?
The Air Corps, yeah.
Okay, now I've seen a pic. We're going to look at a picture of you right now that shows you standing next to Enola Gay.
Hmm?
And that was taken where? In the South Pacific, on an island, or?
Well, it would be that one, or?
Yep, we're going to have a close-up of that one shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of this stuff here.
Oh, good.
Here's a chip. There's a close-up of the Enola Gay. And let's see. There's a piece out of the newspaper. And I got a booklet here on Tinian. That was the island that I went to. And so.
But you ended up on Tinian,
Mm-hmm.
and you had your picture taken in front of the Enola Gay. How did that come about? Were you part of the crew?
No.
Okay.
The Enola Gay was part of a 509th group. They came in after the war was well in progress, and they were a special group of B-29s and everything that went with them, and they were trained for the exclusive job of dropping the atomic bomb. Now, they didn't know this. The crews didn't know. They were asked to volunteer for this job, but they didn't know where it was or what it was, and it was highly secret. And so here one day, here come all these B-29s into Tinian, brand new planes, all the latest modifications and everything, and they built them a runway, and it was right behind the runway where I say my plane, but the plane that I was assigned to as an electrician and mechanic, and so that's where they
Mm-hmm.
took up residence, and they didn't do anything. They didn't know what they were supposed to do. They were sent to the island, and they were doing what they were told to, and they never went on a mission. We were flying missions every couple of days to Japan, bombing missions and so forth, and they were pushing us pretty good. We put in some long hours and repairing planes and keeping them in the air, so to speak. And here sat this other row of planes right behind us, all brand new equipment, and they never went on a mission. And of course, they didn't become very popular because everybody wanted to know, why don't you guys do something, you know? Well, they didn't know. They were doing what they were assigned to, and that was it. So this went on for a few weeks, and till August, and evidently now I don't have any information about what transpired, but they they evidently said, well, the bomb is on the way, and it was put on board the ship, the Indianapolis cruiser, and they brought it from the States to Tinian and dropped it offshore and brought it to shore, and they had to build a sheet metal building there to house it, and it was a little ways from the ocean and just about 150 yards or so from the airfield where they planned on loading it. Of course, now that was hindsight. I don't know just what transpired, but anyway, this is the way it worked. And so then when they decided where they were going and when and so forth, then they went into action. Of course, this was all undercover. We didn't know what they were doing. And they brought it up to the end of the runway to load it on the plane. Lo and behold, the bomb was too big. It wouldn't go underneath the plane. They, so to speak, it just wouldn't fit. So they dug a pit, like a grease pit, as we probably know, in a filling station or something. All this proper size and everything. They dug the hole and they put the bomb in this pit, pulled the plane over the top, and then winched it up into the bomb bay, and fastened it and secured it and got it ready to go. And that was how it was loaded up. And so, of course, we didn't know this was going on at all, and there was a lot of activity all the time, and we didn't pay any attention to it. And so then that evening, on August 6th, well, 6th, I suppose it was 5th. No, when was it dropped? 6th or 7th? Anyway, They took off that evening for Japan. And we didn't know about it, but we got orders from headquarters that our planes were not to fly. They were loaded with bombs and gasoline. Then all of a sudden we got this order, you know, stop whatever you're doing, abort mission. So there we sat. And we sat there all night waiting for further instructions. So in the meantime, this Enola Gay 29 took off to go to Japan to drop the bomb. And I don't know what transpired there either, but they had a couple, 3 options of places they could drop it, depending on the weather conditions and so forth. But
were you informed afterwards that the bomb had been dropped?
they said there was something about a bomb they dropped. We heard it during the night on radio, and they said it wiped out a whole city. Yeah, and we said, yeah, we heard some tall stories, but I said that they don't make anything like that. Well, this was supposed to be it, and we were just to sit tight and wait for the plane to come back. So the next forenoon, when they returned from Japan, when the plane landed, and that's the picture that they had. It was on the end of the runway. They just parked it and walked off and left it. And so we said we weren't doing anything. So I said, there's 3 guys said, let's walk over there and see this thing. We thought maybe there's something special. It didn't look like it from where we were, but so we walked over there, and it was just ordinary B-29, and that was it. I said, well, as long as I'm here, I might as well take a picture. And I had an old box camera, and so I took a couple pictures or had them taken, and that's how that transpired.
Well, you said something about they couldn't use the plane again for the next atomic bomb because they were afraid.
Yeah, that was the story that I got, was that it had been, and there was so much stress to the plane when the bomb exploded. Of course, they dropped it, and then they tried to make a sharp bank and get away from it as far as possible before it was ignited or exploded on the target. And so you'll have to.
Well, they were afraid the rivets of the plane would be loose, so they didn't dare use the plane.
They said it was loosened up. They said the joints and the rivets and stuff.
So they had to use another plane for the other atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And that was the reason they were afraid the first one
Yeah.
couldn't handle that stress.
Yeah. They said they would not fly it on another mission.
Did the second bomb come out of the same island?
Oh yes, yeah. Same procedure, same thing. Only it was what was this? A week later. I forget these dates.
Oh, well, it's pretty a long time ago. After you found out about this, how much longer did you have to stay on the island before you could come back to the States?
Well, of course, you don't just end a war like you drop a bucket or something, you know. And so, yeah, they said the war's done. Well, they had the official surrender and so forth at Tokyo.
How did the news get presented to you and your colleagues?
We just heard it on the radio, and we didn't have any newspapers or anything, so.
Was that the Armed Forces radio?
Well, I presume so.
Okay.
Because of course, we had the radio in the planes, which was a very high quality job, shortwave and so forth. But that was how we really got the word that they had dropped this atomic bomb, and it wiped out the whole city. Well, of course, everybody was stunned. They couldn't believe it, of course, and but that's what they said. So and they said that everything was done.
How much longer did you have to stay on Tinian before you could go home?
That was in August, so we got word, of course, that we would be. The Army set up the point program, where you got so many points for different things, your age, your location, and and how long you'd been in the service and your rank and all that entered into it. And then they formed a roster of names of guys on the island. And the older ones that had the most points, they got to go home first.
How'd you get home?
Well, we were just waiting until they told us, and we were staying at our barracks there, and we went fishing and swimming and laying around, and they did their best to entertain us, but we kind of entertained ourselves, and so then it was about would be the end of November. They said they could get us on an LST. That's a landing ship troops. There was one in Saipan, which was only 3 miles away, and they said they could take a certain number. There were several hundred of us. That we would take that back to Hawaii. And I said, we didn't care as long as it floated. Well, we was ready to go. And so they flew us over to Saipan and dropped us off. We got on this LST along with the rest of them, and we took off for Hawaii. And that must have taken us at least 2 weeks or more to get to Hawaii, because the ship moved very slowly. I think it was like 5-6 knots per hour or something, and it was just it was not a good ride, because they had a shallow draft, round bottom, and they
Pounced.
did a lot of pitching and rolling and and a lot of seasickness going on. But we got back to Hawaii.
And how long were you in Hawaii before you could go back to the States?
Approximately a week. They took us ashore and put us up in the barracks, some little army barracks there, and we stayed there until we got more transportation to the States, which turned out to be the battleship Nevada. And this was a huge, huge thing at that time. That was about as big a ship as they had outside of aircraft carriers. And so anyway, arrangements were made, and we were transported down and loaded up, and in a few days we were in San Diego. So,
And how much time did you spend there before you got back to Minnesota? Not much, I would assume.
well, we were at Camp Han for a couple of days, and then we got the paperwork done, so to speak, and we got on the train and went to your various points of separation. And that was determined by where you were going and where you come from and so forth, you know. And I got discharged at Fort Logan, Colorado. And so then I took the train and took that all the way to Minnesota. But
Okay. Any one particular event that you found exciting or interesting during your service time? Related to the military, that is? No, nothing about women now.
Well, yeah, no, I guess there was nothing.
Okay.
I lived a sheltered life in the service, I guess. I was a mechanic and electrician, and I was on an island, and they wouldn't let me fly, and I supposedly I was had an important job, and I said I would like to fly on a mission to Japan sometime. They were relatively safe. And once in a while they'd get shot at, and they wouldn't let us fly on the ground crew. They said we're too important. They said, you guys disappear, we got nothing, and we can't keep them flying. And so I didn't get to fly on anything until after the war was over. And then I flew on a couple of missions. But
Now, which one is you on the far?
I'm the big one,
Okay, you're the tall one. Okay.
on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the island of Tinian. This is the north end, this is the south end, about 4 miles wide and 10 miles long.
Where was the main runway for the Enola Gay parked at? Without moving it, the bomb was assembled where?
And at the at this spot there. The ship went unloaded down here, and then it went up the road, and that's where it was loaded, right down there. And these are the runways take off
So
there.
this was the main runway here then?
Well, there was 4 of them.
Oh, these are all runways.
Yeah, they're all runways.
Which
Not
one?
just one field. That was the largest airfield in the world at the time. I don't know what.
So all 4 of these lanes were 4 separate runways then?
Yeah,
Okay.
these are all, the planes where you can see were parked in between them. It's like a parking lot.
Let's
That's
see if
where
we can
planes
see
were.
that then.
And the island was laid out by the Seabees, similar to New York, or Manhattan Island, because the main street was Broadway. It went the length of the island, and then they had all the other streets, 42nd Street and all of them. Like
Was this a runway up here?
that's another field. That's Westfield. This is Northfield, and of course this is the Marine Corps was down here, and our living quarters is over on the other side of the island. Pyramidal, look like a pyramid,
Oh, perimeter, okay.
and then we got modern, and the Seabees come along, put up some plywood barracks for us.
What does this building look like? It's pretty well dilapidated.
That's
Japanese barracks?
No, that was Japanese. I think it was used as a slaughterhouse for. See, there were several thousand Koreans on that island. That was forced labor by the Japanese, and they had a whole little country of their own there. They had their chapels and their buildings, headquarters, and mostly
Okay.
sugar cane is what they were growing. You know. This is the main field, really. Looking north across the field, these are the runways that ran crossways of the island. They were about a mile and a half long, something like that.
You said that was the field for planes coming in from China?
Yeah.
Okay.
This could go into a lengthy story, but
Okay, we'll do it.
before they took Tinian as made it an airfield, they had planes based in China. And the only way they could get there was to go to India and then fly over the hump, as they called it, over the Himalayan mountains into China. And they flew the gas and the bombs and stuff into China, and then they'd bomb Japan from there. It didn't happen a lot. You didn't hear much about it. But then, of course, when Tinian was secured, then they had a place to go. So then they gathered everything together, and here they come, flying into Tinian. And they made that little field over there, it's kind of a small field, but that was called Westfield.
What are these thank you cards from? Where do they come from?
From the St. Philip School, the students.
Did you give a talk there or something?
Yeah. I tried to explain to them what I did in the service, and so then they sent me a whole bunch of thank you cards, and so I kind of prized those and I saved them.